Uniswap, Unisocks, Unishirt? What the freak are you talking about, Chico Crypto? Well, find out in about 10 minutes or less because it's time for Chico Crypto. So Uniswap, I love it like a long-lost best friend. I was the first YouTuber to realize the power of its decentralization, covering it 1 year and 3 months ago, when the volume was between $50,000 to a high of 8 million. Uniswap was barely used back then, barely known, and when I made the video, even me as a relatively unknown YouTuber in January of 2020 got thanked by Hayden, the founder of Uniswap, for spreading the good word of the swap, even though I made a fee mistake. And this was back when Uniswap was in V1 and was a tokenless protocol. Uniswap is now in V2 and has a governance token. But there is a major issue today. Ethereum is being heavily used like never before, and the average Uniswap transaction can range from $20 all the way to $100 on a bad day. Not sustainable, and something needs to give, and let me tell you, Chico thinks Uniswap V3 is coming and coming soon, something that will give. Why do I think this? On Twitter, Andre Cronje said this: when founders and core contributors start posting more actively on Twitter, it normally means they finished a milestone and are waiting for the release. This is the limbo time where they don't want to start something new yet. I've noticed Hayden's post frequency increase. Big eyes. And what did Mr. Adams reply to this? Please delete. And then yesterday as well, Hayden posted a poll with the question: when Uniswap V3 details are announced, which will you read first? The announcement blog post, Uniswap's tweet storm, the white paper, or random Twitter reaction. So him posting this poll about V3 is proof something is coming. And what is that something? Well, the poll tells us it will include a blog post, Hayden on the Uniswap Twitter doing a tweet storm, and a white paper. But does this mean the V3 launch on the mainnet, or will it be a delay? What do I mean? Well, let's go back to their V2 launch. It had an initial white paper release too. That happened in March of 2020. It was then 2 months later that it was deployed to the Ethereum mainnet, May of 2020. So will the V3 rollout follow a similar time frame, white paper and then release 2 months later? If we get the V3 announcement and white paper later this week or early next week, March again, that means the V3 mainnet May of 2021 if they follow the similar time frame. Will it follow that time frame? Maybe or maybe not. But what will this mainnet entail? What is it going to consist of? Will it be going live on layer 1 or will it go live on layer 2, like on top of the optimistic Ethereum rollup? Well, less than a month ago, February 11th, Hayden on Twitter said this: for those who are not on Clubhouse, I said it makes sense to have it on both L1 and L2 because there will continue to be long-term L1 demand for higher value transactions, and that at V3 would initially be deployed to L1 but later brought to L2 as well. So no L2 first, which means with the Optimism More mainnet coming in March, Uniswap V3 probably won't be going live with it. But if you didn't notice, Uniswap has been breaking out all week, surging and surging. Is that just in anticipation for a white paper drop? This price movement? I don't think so. It looks to be more than just that. There was a certain person that replied to Hayden's poll about V3 on Twitter, a Ben from Rary Capital who is working with Optimism contracts. They said the source code, and then also said Uniswap source code has all sorts of fun optimizations, up there with Optimism contracts. Hayden replied, I hope you can channel these vibes, with a meme of Galifianakis doing math. So is there a chance the code goes live with the white paper or shortly after a mainnet drop in March? It's possible. But now let's get into the fun stuff with V3. Uniswap is always pretty dang friendly with a big version launch. They do something special. Just after the V2 launch was the governance token launch and a very generous airdrop of 400 Uni tokens if you had used their swapper. With a token price of about $30 yesterday, if you would have held that airdrop, it is now worth 12 grand. But V1 of Uniswap also had something special. It took some time, but in May of 2019, they announced Unisocks, their limited edition dynamically priced socks, which as we can see from the picture during the first days of launch, they were just $12.15. How much are those suckers today? Well, going to Unisocks exchange, just over $131,000. Yahoo! But people are a little confused on Unisocks and how they work. But for purchasing one, you are not initially getting the socks. You get an ERC20 token, which can be sold again. Or you have the option to redeem and burn that token. Redemptions and burns for Unisocks went live on October 2019. From the Go Live tweet, the team said, "Redeemed socks, ERC20, are burned forever. However, a digital representation will live in your wallet in the form of a digital Unisocks that will be minted sometime after redemption, with a link to the OpenSea of a digital redeemed sock." Going to that, we can see it's an NFT asset, the first minted ERC721 Unisock. Now we can use OpenSea to get an idea about how much the NFT version of the Unisocks are going for. Filtering by Unisocks and sorting by recently sold, we can see the last NFT version was sold for about 20 ETH. So I hope people start to realize that there is a secondary market being built around the Unisocks NFTs. Holding on to the more speculative token ERC20 is more worth it right now, over 131 grand if you sold it, which is about 83 ETH. If you redeemed, you could sell the NFT version for about 20 ETH right now. And if I was a purchaser, I would demand the physical version too. But there is a 63 ETH difference between the ERC20 socks and the ERC721 socks. But Chico Crypto thinks this is going to come into balance with time. But dang, Chico, why you talking about socks? Especially ERC721 and NFTs. Well, going back to Hayden's V3 poll, he also said this in reply to someone saying Paris Hilton's NFT would be more talked about than V3. What if Paris Hilton's NFT is part of the Uniswap V3 announcement? Big eyes. So no, the Paris Hilton NFT isn't a part of the V3 launch. That was a joke from him. But Hayden suddenly gave an alpha leak. Uniswap V3 has something to do with NFTs. And there are 3 things this alpha leak could relate to. In order of the most probable, number 1, Uniswap is going to do a second iteration of Unisocks. How will they do it? Maybe a Unishirt? Why do I think this? Well, if you didn't know, Unishirt came before Unisocks. It just wasn't tokenized. From a November 2019 History of Uniswap post by Hayden, there were V0 Unishirts that were given out at DevCon 4 in November of 2018. So, from Unishirt non-tokenized to Unisocks tokenized, and then with the V3 launch, Unishirts once again, but this time tokenized. Chico Crypto thinks it's highly likely. But what else could they be up to? Possibility number 2, an integrated NFT marketplace into Uniswap? Well, that would be stepping on the toes of the likes of OpenSea if they opened it up for all NFTs. But it's possible Unisocks and Unishirt ERC20 pools and trading is implemented directly into the main Uniswap exchange. And possibility number 3, which personally I think is very unlikely, is they have created liquidity pools for NFTs, ERC721s and ERC1155s, and that would be massive. But the reason I think it's highly unlikely is Hayden just last week tweeted this in reply to someone asking, can someone explain why Unisocks uses both an ERC721 and an ERC20? He said, the reason why is because NFTs are not fungible, so they don't really work in the context of liquidity pools. So it trades in ERC20 form, but can be redeemed, burned for the real socks plus NFT. From Hayden's mouth, non-fungibles don't really work in the context of liquidity pools. So Chico thinks be ready for a Unishirt and possible merch integration into the main exchange. But with V3, there could be more. Now there's a big question of what Uniswap is going to do with the community treasury. As we can see from the Uniswap token release documentation, the treasury is retaining 43% of the Uni supply to distribute on an ongoing basis through contributor grants, community initiatives, liquidity mining, and other programs. Well, going to the treasury address, we can see it's worth over $2.6 billion as of right now. The Uniswap community has a war chest, and I'm sure with V3 a portion of it will be unlocked. The community will be behind that. It's up to them to decide what's going to happen. Another airdrop, more liquidity mining, rewarding those who didn't sell their Uni and held it since the airdrop. That's in the future and up to the Uniswap community, so Chico can only guess. But I hope they reward those who didn't sell and were true hodlers, like a majority of the Chico army. Cheers, I'll see you next time.